Daniel Ricciardo is the hottest topic in the summer break saga, as the silly season saw him losing his spot in McLaren to a younger compatriot of his, Oscar Piastri. Although he doesn't hold a grudge against the youngster, the 8-time race winner is still without a seat as the season is coming, and the options are narrowing down to the reserve driver role in Mercedes and possibly Red Bull. One of the seats that were and is still available to him, but with a very small preference, is Alpine. After it became evident that Ricciardo and Alpine aren't looking to make a reunion, HAAS has emerged as one of the best candidates for Ricciardo's signature, and Steiner spoke about the situation yet again. This video goes over Steiner's recent statements about Ricciardo, as well as the Aussie's response for his future, so don't go anywhere if you want to find out more about this matter. Let's start with the initial connections that were made between Ricciardo and HAAS when it became evident that Alpine are looking forward to signing either Gasly or some of the drivers that are looking to make a comeback season, such as Giovinazzi and Hülkenberg. It emerged that Steiner has contacted Ricciardo prior to the summer break saga and prior to all the chaos unwinding down as it did. But according to Steiner, it was just to test out the driving market and nothing else, which is something that all team principals do. He stressed that HAAS needs to be careful when it comes to signing Ricciardo, since his fall in performance and form isn't a sudden one. As he added, everyone thinks now Danny is available, we have to take Daniel. Maybe we don't want Daniel. Why do you think he has left McLaren? We need to be careful here. It's not just about what we have done, it's what we can do, said Steiner. But this was earlier in August, and now he has spoken yet again about the Aussie and the chances of the 8-time race winner joining HAAS in the upcoming period, saying that Daniel has to decide for himself what he wants to do in the future. On top of that, Steiner said that if Ricciardo had plans to drive for HAAS, he would have called them, saying, "In his situation, Daniel first has to decide for himself what he does. It makes little sense to persuade him to do something. He has to decide for himself. If he feels like it, he will certainly call. Otherwise, he will probably say, I'll do a sabbatical or something else." On top of this, Steiner spoke about the rest of the drivers that are competing for the HAAS seat, including the driver that currently holds that seat, Mick Schumacher. When speaking to RTL regarding this matter, Steiner said that Mick's chances of remaining in HAAS are 50-50, saying, "You put yourself under pressure and we don't need that. We only play against ourselves. We don't really have any time pressure. All the others have the time pressure, but we don't. That's an advantage we don't take away from ourselves." As for Nico Hülkenberg, he did say that it's a driver that will surely help the team grow in the right direction, elaborating, "A man like Nico brings experience. What can a driver do to make the team better and bring us to the top? How much risk do you want to take? With a young driver, you usually take more risks because you don't know how far he can go. You can't calculate that mathematically." But still, the main focus is on Daniel Ricciardo, and it's not clear to many fans and F1 experts as to why he is still without a seat. One of the most vocal ones regarding this matter are Lewis Hamilton and Christian Horner, as they both shared their personal opinions on whether Ricciardo should or shouldn't have a seat for the 2023 seat. When asked about whether Ricciardo is the best choice for Mercedes and the reserve driver role, Lewis Hamilton said, "I think he's far too talented and he's earned the right to be amongst us all racing. If he's part of our team, that'd be great, but a third role is not really what's best for him. If I was managing him, he'd be racing." On the other hand, Christian Horner said that he still doesn't understand why Alpine and Ricciardo haven't made the relationship happen yet again, and the Enstone-based team focused on the Red Bull protégé Pierre Gasly. "I think I probably would go with Ricciardo, to be honest with you. They obviously know him from a couple of seasons ago, and he was very together during his last season there, scoring podiums, and I think he's the type of guy that I think you could rebuild him. It's obviously not been a great experience for him at McLaren for whatever reason, but you just have to think back to some of the drives that he did for us, some of the wins he had, the podiums, some of the stunning overtakes he was capable of. That's still there, I'm sure. He just needs a bit of a reset. You don't just forget how to deliver, so I hope for him he gets another opportunity and gets himself back in the grid for next year," finished Horner. As for Ricciardo, he spoke about his future yet again, saying that everything is open and that he doesn't want to take anything for granted and all of his options remain possible. Yet he did accept that he may not be on the grid in 2023, which is something that would hurt the sport in a severe manner. When I say I don't know, I don't have a contract yet for next year. Could it still happen? It could. I guess I'm not getting too caught up next year. Of course I want to race, I want to be on the grid, I want to be competing, but I'm not kind of seeing next year as all or nothing. Obviously 2024 is something I want to be aware of and look at. So that's kind of where I'm, like, if it means taking a step back to then take 2 steps forward, then that's what we're trying to figure out at the moment, me and my team. So that could be a year off, finished Ricciardo. There is one F1 champion that just doesn't believe that Ricciardo deserves to be considered for the Alpine spot, as according to him, having 4 consecutive bad seasons in F1 just doesn't do any good for your reputation. When talking about Ricciardo and why he isn't the #1 candidate for Alpine, Jacques Villeneuve said, "Why would he be? He had 2 terrible years at Renault and 2 even more terrible years at McLaren. That's 4 years. Almost half of his Formula 1 career was bad. Alpine have no reason to take him, especially when he's driven there before. The modern cars just don't seem to suit his driving style." He was impressive at Red Bull. He showed amazing overtaking maneuvers. He was ahead of Max at the beginning. But in the end, Max started to get a handle on him, then he switched, and after the switch, something seems to have happened that he never managed to get a handle on. He never recovered from that, finished Jacques. On top of that, Jacques also spoke about Ricciardo taking a sabbatical and having 1 year off the sport, and then conquering a seat in 2024, which is exactly what Ricciardo's head is at right now. According to him, it would make him lazy and it won't do him any good, as he elaborated. It could make him lazy. You can take a year off if you're an Alonso, a Schumacher, if you've been world champion and won a lot of races, if you know in the paddock that you'll always be at your best no matter what season. After 4 bad years, don't do that. You take what you can get. If you have an offer to drive in Formula 1, then you take every cockpit. In public you will say you don't want to drive for one of the back teams, but if that's the only contract you can get, then you'll sign it, finished Jacques. With that being said, it's evident that Ricciardo's future is still hanging in the air. One of the biggest obstacles to him joining a team like Williams or HAAS is because he is set to get $15 million from McLaren in the buyout agreement, and these 2 teams have nowhere near that budget to offer the Aussie. Alpine is the only team that can offer him a huge paycheck, but as Villeneuve said, Ricciardo isn't in a position to negotiate stuff when there aren't many seats available, and he has to take what's given to him. What do you think is next for the Aussie? Or more importantly, what do you think about Steiner's renewed comments on the 8-time race winner? Do you think that there is still a chance for Ricciardo to sign for HAAS after these talks have resurfaced yet again? Let us know in the comments below.